Okay, let's do a little reading update. I just printed out some of my reading reviews, my book reviews. Oh my gosh. uh, Batsy has the zoomies, so don't mind her. She just got so much energy all of a sudden. So I'm going to put these in my reading journal soon, but can't wait to talk about these books. On my TBR, I have all like horror or just like fall feeling books. Fall books I feel that you would read in the fall, but I did not get to finish them all before the end of November. We went to see family for Thanksgiving break, and I pictured having time to read and like sitting outside and reading my book, and I had no time to read. So I did not get as far as I wanted to in my TBR. I wanted to already have these finished, but that's okay. It's fine. It's December 2nd right now. I finished Hexed by Jenny Fagan. I got this in Scotland, which was cool because this was in Blackwell's in Scotland. There was this section of like Scottish history books, and this is a historical fiction about Gillis Duncan, who was accused of being a witch, and she's in prison right now waiting to be killed. She's like 15 years old, and we learn about how she was tortured, everything terrible that happened to her. And someone visits her from the future in her jail cell, and we're following like their just like this one night of their conversation. I liked it. It was very much angry energy, which I mean is valid. She's about to be killed for being accused of being a witch, since she was terribly tortured and stuff like that. So I thought it was really good. I'm not going to say anything else about it because it's such a short read. It was not exactly what I was expecting. I didn't really look into it a lot, but it talks a lot about how even women in the future, like in our time right now, are persecuted for who they are, what they believe. Sorry, Batsy is very much in the way. Come on. She wants to be in the video. But I finished this one, and then I read The Crucible by Arthur Miller, and very different feeling about this book. This is so hard to read. It's a play. And so it was just too difficult. The story seemed good. This is about the Salem witch trials, so like same women being persecuted for being a witch. Like there's so much with the church. Everyone can be accused of being a witch, and I mean, I feel like I'm saying that very poorly, but it's about the Salem witch trials and an event that happened to accuse people of like being possessed by the devil, stuff like that. This is a movie, which I want to see now that I read the book or the play. And I think I just would have enjoyed this so much more had it not been in playwright form, like where you have the name of everyone who's talking and then in brackets like what they're doing. And I think just also it being like an older book already kind of makes it difficult to read. I mean, I'm so glad that it's short. The story was interesting. The format made it hard for me to follow. That's what I'm trying to say. But I am glad I read it because now I want to watch the movie. And it has, oh my gosh. She's in Little Women. She's in Stranger Things. She's in so many movies. And now I can't remember her name, but I want to see it. So these are the first two books that I've read. Now I'm moving on to the ones I'm really excited about, the Shirley Jackson books. I'm right now, and We Have Always Lived in the Castle. And then I'm going to read The Haunting of Hill House, which I was more excited about, but I wanted to read this one first. I've heard some people prefer this one, some people prefer the other one. I've heard one person in a bookstore, like the saleswoman in Scotland, because I also bought this one in Scotland, she said she likes them both equally, but I feel like usually when I hear about these books, like someone likes one more than the other. There are a lot of unanswered questions right now. There will be things that are said, and I'm like, wait, what? I don't understand that yet, which I'm really intrigued. That's how I feel about this book. I'm really intrigued. One of our main protagonists, will say that she did something, so she's a third safe. Something to that effect. And I was like, what? A third safe? There are things that our characters are doing that don't make sense right now, and I'm intrigued. And it seems like they've had to do these things for a while to stay safe, and nothing's really explained just yet. We're in the dark. But it's interesting. It's also a very short read. I'm on chapter 3. I know that there are 10 chapters, and it's only like 150-ish pages. My plan was to finish this today. I'm not sure if I'm going to finish it today or early tomorrow, but this is where I'm at right now. Finished these two, reading this one, and then I want to read the next Shirley Jackson after this one, I think. Or I might take like a brain break and read the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which will be so easy to read. But this is where I'm at right now, and I'm having a good time. Again, I wanted to read these in October, but I didn't have the books because they were just not with me at the time in October. And then I wanted to read them before the end of November, and November just flew by, and now we're in December. So I do plan to finish these books in the next few days. That's the plan. But I'm going to continue to read this book, and I'll update you in a little bit. Good morning, or it's actually afternoon. Good afternoon. Today I want to get a lot of reading done. So after reading, let me get it. I finished Shirley Jackson's We've Always Lived in the Castle. This was not what I thought. I thought this was going to be like a haunted house, more horror than it was. It kept my interest, but this is not scary. Okay, maybe I wasn't expecting it to be like a really scary horror, but more spooky. I wanted more. So after reading this book, I looked up the themes of this book. I wanted to make sure that I understood it, that it didn't just go completely over my head. I mean, there are elements, like spooky elements in it, but I was like, I feel like there are deeper themes that maybe I'm not understanding, or just expected something spooky when there's more going on. And it is, the themes, like the things that it's talking about are more like isolation, anxiety, murder, and madness, like one of our characters kind of going mad. And I guess I should have expected that from like a modern classic more than it just being scary, but it just wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite like spooky book. I'm hoping that The Haunting of Hill House, since it has haunting in the name, that it's a little bit more spooky. I'm still glad that I read it though. Like every time I read a classic, even if it's not my favorite, I'm still glad that I read it. But it just, after reading this, a play and a historical fiction, I wanted something easy. I wanted an easier read. So I'm almost finished with this. I don't know why I bought this. I mean, I know why. It's because everyone was reading this book, and everyone was also reading the the second one that was not as popular, the like cinnamon bun cafe, I don't know, something like that. But I was drawn in by the cover, and it was fall at the time when I bought it. So this is just not me. This is not my reading style. I don't read cute little romances where it's like insta lovey, and I'm not the biggest fan of like the small town feel either. Like, okay, this is Gilmore Girls in a book. Like the characters, Luke is Logan, and Lorelai is, oh, what was her name? Jenny? Jeannie? Like, there are meetings in the town hall, and the group of gossipy women, and there's the mayor who's crazy. It's Gilmore Girls. But I would rather watch Gilmore Girls for the nostalgia. Like, I love Gilmore Girls, but I didn't want to read about it. So when I started this book, I was like, oh my gosh, I almost DNF'd it, but I bought it. And I guess I wanted to know what the hype was about, but I just decided to listen to the rest of it. I think I have like 50 pages left to listen to, but this is just, I don't read romances like this. I don't like romances like this. So I will not be buying the other books that are in this series, I guess it's a series. I'm wondering if the other books are like the other store owners in this town. Yeah, I'm not liking it. just gonna say I don't like it. So I was like, I need a horror. I need a horror in my life. So I'm going to read Nat Cassidy's Nestling next. Nestlings? Oh, I can't read it from here. I can't wait to read a Nat Cassidy. But I was on Kindle Unlimited, and I saw that what's it called? Pretty Girls was on there. And I know that that's a popular book, and I think it's also supposed to be like really sad. So I started it, and I got 30 pages in, and I DNF'd it. I was like, this is not a horror. I don't think it very much felt like a mystery thriller. A girl goes missing. I was like, I don't want to read another girl goes missing book right now. And I just wasn't feeling it. So I returned it, and I picked up a Dean Koontz book. I've been really curious about his books, and I'm reading Phantoms, and I'm having a great time with this book. It's spooky. There's this like killer moth that like grabs onto people's faces and like melts away their skin. It was gross. And there's this scene, I won't say what happens, but there's communication in a scene right now, and I was like, this is creepy. And I was reading it at night, and I was like, okay, I think this is actually kind of creeping me out. I'm gonna stop reading this right now. And after, I'm 72% of the way through this, I'm reading it on my phone. I'm curious about Dean Koontz and like Stephen King, if they're compared, if they were rivals. And I looked it up. Now, when you think of horror, you think of Stephen King, like he's the king of horror. Not the author for me necessarily, but Dean Koontz, like he's an older author, and I don't know that he's like really popular with, I don't know, my age or whatever. But I always see his books, and they remind me of Stephen King, and his writing reminds me of Stephen King too. Now this is not like his oldest book, so maybe his older books I wouldn't enjoy as much. I don't know. I'm curious about his writing. This is a backlisted book, but it does give Stephen King vibes. But he is not necessarily just all horror. He's more thriller horror, I think. Like thriller with horror, like subgenre, whereas like Stephen King is like horror. And I was also curious about like James Patterson. I feel like all of these authors are all like, I don't know, like the same age, and they're all have like older books. And I tried a James Patterson. He is more suspense thriller, and I feel like mystery. And I tried one of his books and I couldn't. I put it down. I would try. I will try another one of his. I would try another one of his books, but right now I'm very curious about Dean Koontz. I want to see how this book wraps up. If I like it, I mean, I've liked it so far, and if I would pick up another one, because this is not his most popular book. It has really good reviews, but I think Watchers is supposed to be one of his most popular books. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I started this yesterday, like afternoon, and I read like 300 pages yesterday. It got really gripping and really creepy. But okay, so this book is called Phantoms, and we're following two sisters. One of them is a doctor that lives in this really small town in California, like in the hills where people ski. And she's a doctor there, and she picked up her sister like from the airport, and she's bringing her to stay with her. I don't know if she's going to live with her or stay with her for a while. She might live there, actually. And they get to the town, and she goes into her house, and her house cleaner, I don't think she called her a maid. Her house cleaner is dead, and she's like on the floor, and the body does not look right. Like there's something off with the body, and there's no smell in the house. It's something's off. And then they go around the town, and everyone is dead. And we're following different POVs. We're following, well, them, both of them, and then different investigators that after a while they go to that town. We even followed the POV of a fox at one point. That feels Stephen King. Like all of the point of views, how there's so many of them, that reminds me of Stephen King's writing. Even like following an animal's point of view in the dome, Stephen King has some point of views of some animals. But it's not boring. I'm sorry, but it's not as boring as Stephen King. I hope it has a good ending. I would really like to have some like Dean Koontz, like the very retro books that also remind me very much of like older Stephen King covers. I'd like to have some of those. I think that would be cool to add to my horror like collection. So I think I've been talking for way too long. I'm going to read. I'm gonna get coffee and read. Alright, I finished Phantoms by Dean Koontz. This is not the coolest cover for this book. I prefer the retro cover, and I might buy the physical copy. I liked it. I liked it. I had a really good time with this. Like I said earlier, his writing does remind me of Stephen King a little bit, but I did some research. I read an article, this person describing, I looked up a few, but like this person was kind of breaking down the differences between Dean Koontz and Stephen King. Stephen King is the more popular horror author. Dean Koontz has written different genres and is not known so much as like the king of horror like Stephen King. But he like validated some of my feelings about Stephen King, because he said that, let me see if I can pull up, in a nutshell, he says that Stephen King can give a lot of backstory when it's not necessary, and that Stephen King can ramble a lot. And I was like, yes, like when I was reading his opinions about Stephen King, I was like, oh my gosh, this is how I feel. Like Stephen King's characters, his story, the movie adaptations are so good, but that he can ramble. Whereas I didn't feel like Dean Koontz, at least in this book, I've read one, okay, but I have tried many Stephen King's, that it wasn't rambling. He didn't give us a bunch of unnecessary information. That's how I feel about Stephen King. There are obviously like more differences between them, but I was more interested in like their writing styles and their genre, the differences in those. So I found this article and I enjoyed reading it, but I liked Phantoms. I was looking on Kindle Unlimited. The one I want to read is not there, so I don't think I'm gonna go like right into another Dean Koontz, but I think I might buy the physical copy of that book, because I like the retro, the look of Dean Koontz' older books. It's like black with big bold red letters, but there are so many editions of this book. This is one of his most popular books. Finished it, liked it. Obviously I read it so fast. I did finish The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Now I read this really fast just to get it over with, not because it was a really gripping story, but if you like cutesy, insta-lovey, just for the fall atmosphere, then maybe. I also thought some scenes are kind of gross. I was like, oh, this is very cutesy and Lorelai Gilmore, like, Gilmore Girls, but then there were some scenes I was like, that wouldn't happen in Gilmore Girls. So I kind of felt like I would have rather, I would have rather it stayed just cutesy love than to have some ickiness in it. But I finished it. I just wanted to finish it so I could pick up a different physical book, because I want to read the Nat Cassidy book. It'll be my first Nat Cassidy. I'm so excited. But I think I'm going to take a little break. So I just finished 2 books and maybe start the Nat Cassidy book today, maybe. Oh, and okay, there's this book that I really want. I might get it from eBay. It's $5. It is a backlist book. It's a Mira Grant. I think I've been saying Myra Grant. I think it's Mira Grant. I heard someone say it like, I was like, oh, I know I say names incorrectly a lot. But it's Parasite. I think this is supposed to be like zombie-esque. There's no more disease because everyone takes this like medicine that gives them a worm that like kills the disease. So like everyone is like healthy because of this worm. But I think this worm like now wants to take over its host, and that sounds creepy. My window's open and I thought I heard a cat like yelling in distress. Maybe you're just fighting with another cat. But I didn't see anything. I didn't see it. I like Mira Grant's writing. I read Feed and Into the Drowning Deep. Loved Into the Drowning Deep. I ate up that book. Feed was felt like a more difficult read, but I did also read that book really fast. But I was looking at the rating. I only gave it 3 stars, which I don't know. I'm like questioning my rating on that because I think about that book a lot, and that had zombies in it too. I think I just wanted more zombies in this book. But I was looking at my rating and I was like, oh, I didn't rate this book what I like feel about it now, which is interesting. So I'm debating getting the second book in that series, which is Deadline, which is following one of the characters that was in Feed. And he was a pretty interesting character, so I might buy some Mira Grant books. And since they're backlist books, you know, you can find them used for $5. But the Parasite one sounds really interesting and like creepy. But I think I'm gonna get some more coffee and then maybe do some editing and read later, maybe. I just started it on page 10. My jaw dropped. I was like, ah, that's so disgusting. And I hope that doesn't happen again, because that was so disgusting. Oh my gosh. Ah. I just tried to make a yes, no, or maybe review for TikTok. I really want to be more present on TikTok. It's hard. It's difficult for me, but I really want to try. And I love those videos. I love when people do the yes, no, maybe reviews, or like just like rapid fire. I find those really interesting. Or like, if you like this book, read this book. So I want to try to do more of that. But man, it's so challenging to speak so fast. I've made pretty good progress in this book. I'm on page 84. Oh, but guys, this has bugs in it. And I didn't know that going into this book. Like, okay, in the... put a marker. Sorry, the dishwasher's going. It has like notes from the author, and it says that there are a whole lot of bug stuff. Oh my gosh. And there's already been bugs, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel I feel on edge, like I'm gonna see bugs in my room. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm hoping it doesn't get so bad that I can't read this, because I hate bugs. And especially the bugs that they're talking about in this book. I'm going to like glance at the pages before reading them, because if there's a scene that is really gross with bugs, I'm going to skip it. Like, I don't want to come up to that part with bugs and read something I did not want to read. I'm liking the story. I like where it's going. It seems really creepy. Like the babies, there was something I was going to read. Right here it talks about babies and how the babies are the reason they got the apartment, that they're the reason that they're there. Like the babies in this book, it seems creepy. Which is what I wanted. I wanted a creepy baby book, but I didn't want to read about bugs. It's so gross. And we haven't even gotten that far in. So I don't know. If the bugs get really gross, I might not be able to read this book. I'll let you know. I just finished it. This book is weird and gross. This book, themes in this book are postpartum depression, marriage, what it means to be a mother. There's a lot of racism in this book. He warns us at the very beginning of the book. Says, a quick heads up about the content of this book. You're going to find marriage troubles, parental trauma, child endangerment, talk/images of postpartum depression, suicidal ideation, bodily harm, anti-Semitism, claustrophobia, some gaslighting, and a whole lot of bug stuff. There's also a character who's really racist, a sexist piece of shit. And yes, that character is awful. the marriage troubles were so stressful. This book was stressful. I also didn't know this was gonna have bugs in it. Like on page 10, there's a gross bug scene. Now I will say it wasn't as gross as it could have been. Like, I think I was just so stressed out waiting for more bug stuff. Now there was gross stuff. It was disgusting, but I thought it was going to take it way further. But I kind of like books that talk about postpartum depression, or yeah, like that talk about that struggle. But that was also a lot. So there are just a lot of warnings for this book. I don't know that I would really recommend it. Like, I think I had a fun time being stressed out by it, but I did put I have little dog ears for quotes that I liked, or pages that I felt were like made an impression on me. There's like a whole page of our female protagonist, the mother, kind of talking about what makes a mother, and she's understanding more of what it means to be a mother, and I liked that. Like, there are things about this book that I liked, but I just felt so stressed out the whole time. Okay, so the last two books that are on the TBR for this reading vlog are Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House and ML Rio's The Graveyard Shift. I'm going to wait to read this one. I already read 2 modern classics for this reading vlog. I feel a little burnt out on them, so I'm gonna save this. I do want to read it, but I don't feel like reading this right now. I really want to read this, so I'm gonna read this tomorrow, and if I have enough time, I'm gonna read The Hair on Kindle Unlimited. I saw that Jan is gonna read this, and she said it talks a lot about grief, and it's a horror book on Kindle Unlimited, so I want to read this too, but we'll see. This is what I'm going to focus on, but I'm gonna do that tomorrow.
Hey. Hey, CP.
I finished it. But what? The end was so abrupt. Like, wait. I wish this were longer. I would like... I know that this is supposed to kind of leave us with a lot of questions, and definitely does. So this is about a group of friends that have insomnia that go to smoke in a churchyard, like a graveyard. And there's a fresh open grave where no grave should be, but who dug it and for whom. So they're trying to figure out what's going on with this hole in this graveyard. I just wish it were longer and we had more time with the situation that's going on in this book. But I read it. I don't know what I'm going to rate it as, because I feel like I just read like like a part of the book and I have to rate a book based on a fourth of a book. That's so weird. Batsy's going crazy because of the weather. It's cold out, which means she's going insane. So I said that I wanted to start The Hair on Kindle Unlimited. I think it's The Har, not The Hair. I think I'm finished with this reading vlog. I read quite a few books and I'm ready to start a fresh vlog. To recap, these are the books that I read, did not like, liked a lot, difficult read, not what I thought, where's the rest of the book? And I also read Phantoms on my Kindle, which will be coming in the mail soon. But oh my gosh, I've filmed this clip like 6 times. There are people being so loud outside, and then Batsy starts crying, so I'm going to go. I'm ready to start a new vlog, to read a new set of books. Stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.